The crystalline spires of Velcara Prime pierced the violet sky like frozen lightning. Within the palace's grand reception hall, Princess Maya examined her reflection in the polished obsidian wall, adjusting the bioluminescent crown that floated above her silver hair. At 17 cycles, she was the youngest member of the Velcaran royal family, and she wore her privilege like armor. "Another delegation from the primitives," she muttered to her attendant, rolling her amber eyes. "Why must Mother entertain these humans?" The doors groaned open, and Maya's attention shifted to the arriving diplomatic party. 3 humans entered, their movements awkward in the palace's reduced gravity. 2 were young military officers, their uniforms crisp and adorned with medals that meant nothing to her. But it was the 3rd figure that made Maya's lips curl into a smirk. He was old, impossibly old by human standards. His face was a map of wrinkles, his hair white as Velcara's twin moons. He wore a simple gray uniform, faded and worn, with only a single tarnished star on his collar. He walked with a slight limp, leaning on a carbon fiber cane that had seen better decades. "Is this a joke?" Maya whispered loudly enough for the humans to hear. "They've brought a relic." The old soldier's pale blue eyes flickered toward her, but his expression remained neutral. He said nothing, simply took his position behind the 2 younger officers. Captain Rodriguez, the lead diplomat, stepped forward and bowed. "Your Majesty, Your Highness, we come representing the Terran coalition with a proposal for continued cooperation." "Yes, yes," Maya interrupted, waving her hand dismissively. Her mother, Queen Sariel, shot her a warning glance from the throne, but the princess continued. "We've heard it all before. Humans seeking technology, resources, protection. What could you possibly offer us that we don't already possess?" She descended the steps from her platform, her flowing robe seeming to defy gravity itself. As she approached, she deliberately walked past the 2 officers and stopped directly in front of the old man. "And what is this one's purpose?" she asked, circling him like a predator. "A mascot, a reminder of mortality." The old soldier, his name badge read W. Torres, remained perfectly still. His weathered hands rested on his cane, his breathing steady. "Princess Maya," Captain Rodriguez said carefully, "this is Colonel William Torres. He's here as a military consultant." "A colonel?" Maya laughed, the sound like chimes in the wind. What battles could he possibly remember? What wars could that ancient body have survived? She leaned closer, studying the scars that lined his neck and jaw. "Or are these from accidents, from stumbling in your crude spacecraft?" "Maya," Queen Sariel's voice cut through the hall like a blade. "That is enough." But the princess was enjoying herself too much to stop. "No, Mother, I'm genuinely curious. We Velcarans live for 3 centuries. We've conquered 14 star systems. We've built technology that bends spacetime itself." She turned back to William, her voice dripping with condescension. "What could a human who's barely lived a single century teach us about anything?" For the first time, William Torres spoke. His voice was quiet, gravelly, but it carried across the hall with unexpected weight. "Nothing, Your Highness." Maya blinked, taken aback by his honesty. "I'm old," William continued, his eyes never leaving hers. "I'm slow, I'm weak by your standards, you're absolutely right." The princess smiled, sensing victory. "At least you're honest, old man, perhaps theirs." "But I am also William Hale Torres," he interrupted gently, "and your mother knows exactly who I am." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Maya glanced at her mother and froze. Queen Sariel had risen from her throne, her 7-foot frame suddenly rigid. The bioluminescent patterns on her skin, normally a calm blue, had shifted to a deep purple that Maya had only seen once before, during the Zenith crisis. "Mother," Maya's voice was uncertain now. The queen descended from her throne, her movements precise, controlled. Every eye in the hall followed her as she crossed the polished floor. The silence was absolute. Queen Sariel stopped 3 paces from William Torres. Then, slowly, deliberately, She lowered herself to one knee, placing her right fist over her heart in the traditional Velkaran salute, reserved only for those who had saved the royal bloodline. Maya's world tilted. "Colonel Tors," the queen said, her voice thick with emotion, "it has been 43 years. I wondered if I would ever see you again." William's stern expression softened slightly. "Your Majesty, you've aged well. The crown suits you." "Rise, please," Sariel said, standing. "You bow to no one in this palace, not after what you did." Maya found her voice. "Mother, what is happening? You're bowing to a human." Queen Sariel turned to her daughter, and Maya actually took a step back at the intensity in her mother's gaze. 43 years ago, the queen began, I was not a queen. I was a young captain leading a scientific expedition in the Hadron sector. We were studying a collapsing star system when our ship was ambushed by Krell raiders. She paused, her bioluminescent patterns pulsing with the memory. 17 raiders against our single science vessel. We were going to die. Maya had never heard this story. In all her years, her mother had never spoken of her time before the crown. "A human patrol ship detected our distress signal," Sariel continued. "A small frigate called the Defiant. Its captain had a choice: jump to safety with his crew of 63 humans, or engage 17 Krell warships to save 8 Velkarans he'd never met." William shifted his weight on his cane, uncomfortable with the attention. "He chose to fight," Sariel said. "For 4 hours the Defiant held off the Krell fleet. 4 hours of impossible maneuvers, of tactics so brilliant that our military academies still study them. 4 hours during which Captain Tors and his crew suffered catastrophic damage to save us." The Queen's voice broke slightly. When it was over, only 12 humans survived. Captain Tors himself was trapped in a collapsed compartment for 6 hours before we could cut him free. The damage to his spine, his legs, the radiation exposure. She looked at William's cane, understanding flooding her eyes. "That limp, those scars, they're from saving my life." Maya felt her throat tighten. The room swam before her eyes. "We offered him Velkaran medical technology," Sariel said. "We could have healed him completely, reversed the aging damage from the radiation. He refused. He said those scars reminded him of his crew, the ones who didn't make it home." William finally spoke again. "They were good people. They deserved better than me surviving when they didn't." "You survived because you were the best captain in the Terran fleet," Sariel countered. "Because you made decisions that saved everyone you could, including 8 Velkarans who went on to do great things." She gestured to herself. "Including a young officer who became a queen." Maya felt tears streaming down her face. Shame burned in her chest like a dying star. "I am sorry," she whispered, approaching William. "I am so sorry. I didn't know. I thought." "You thought I was just an old man taking up space," William said, not unkindly. "You weren't entirely wrong. I am old. I am taking up space. But maybe," he smiled for the first time, the expression transforming his weathered face, "maybe that space was earned." Maya dropped to her knees before him, mimicking her mother's earlier gesture. "I was cruel, arrogant, foolish." "You were young," William corrected, "and young people make mistakes. The question is what you do after." He extended his hand to her, the gesture gentle. "Do you learn? Do you grow?" Maya took his hand, feeling the calluses, the strength still present despite the age. As she rose, she met his eyes and saw not anger but patience, understanding, forgiveness. "I want to learn," she said, "about the battle, about sacrifice, about what it means to be worthy of the privilege I was born into." William glanced at Queen Sariel, who nodded with obvious pride. "Then I suppose," he said, "this old soldier has one more tour of duty left in him, teaching a princess about what truly matters." In the days that followed, Maya sat at William's feet in the palace archives, listening to stories not of glory, but of impossible choices and terrible costs. She learned that strength wasn't measured in lifespan or technology, but in the courage to stand when everything screamed to run. And she learned that sometimes the greatest teachers come in the most unexpected packages, like an old human soldier with a battered cane and scars that told a story of heroism her spoiled eyes had been too blind to see.